Spread the fire. My name is Tessa Dooms, and we are at another day at the Rock. I think this is day number 3 now. It's Friday morning, afternoon, and we are ready to look at more results at the Rock. Forgive me, guys, we have not slept for a while. It has been a very, very rough few days. But right now we are at a point where we have about 9 million votes counted, actually 9.4 million votes that are counted. And we're estimating that we're looking at about 16 million votes in total that should be coming through if the estimates of about 58% is correct. And so we are beyond the halfway mark when it comes to votes. And now it's time to really start to think about what do the results mean, what are the big stories. So there are two big stories that are kind of related that I wanted to share. One is that the Northern Cape is the first province that is done with all of its voting, 100% of the votes in, and the results are interesting. Firstly, the ANC has not gotten 50+1 in the Northern Cape. They are on a 49 point something percent, and they are definitely going to need a coalition partner or two to get a few more seats to get over the line. But of course, we know a few more seats in a council that's very small is not enough. You need really to get more than just +1. You need +2, 3, 4, 5 to have a really, really strong hold. And I think the ANC is not going to necessarily get that very easily, because the parties that they need to work with over there are the DA in second place, the EFF in third place, but in fourth place, the surging Patriotic Alliance. Now, if you think that MK is the biggest story of this election, you are right, but the second biggest story is the Patriotic Alliance. Now, some of you have seen on this channel that I did do a podcast on the Patriotic Alliance not so long ago, trying to explain the history of the Patriotic Alliance, how we got here. But for a recap, 10 years ago, 2014, the Patriotic Alliance had its first showing in a national provincial election. And in that election, they only got 0.04% of the vote, 20,000 votes or so across the country. And at that point, it was Gayton McKenzie, Kenny Kunene, nobody else really in particular that you could think of. We didn't know where their support was coming from. They were really more popular figures, pop culture figures, than they were politicians at the time. But I always say I really do give credit to those two, to Gayton McKenzie and to Kenny Kunene, for deciding to come back and to come back and to come back. When you lose, you have to keep going in politics if you're serious about change. And I think that they were serious about at least building a political party that they believed in. And so what we're seeing today is that the PA is now over 200,000 votes on the national ballot. That is 10 times where they were in 2014. They've grown 10 times that. In the same year, the EFF was formed. And one must wonder, if the EFF had grown at 10 times, at even 5 times than where they were when they first started, we would be looking at a different all together. So it's not a small feat that the PA has grown 10 times in the last 10 years. But also that 10 times growth only really happened in the last 3 years. 2021 was a turning point for the Patriotic Alliance. In 2019, they didn't really have a good showing, no seats in parliament. 2016, no real showing at local government. And then you have this moment, 2021, where the PA decides on a new strategy. And that strategy started with deciding to go to communities, finding community leaders, and making sure that those community leaders come and join the PA, become politicians. And this was taking people who were not politicians before in the main and turning them into politicians. Granted, there were a few politicians in the mix, many of them unsurprisingly DA politicians, but the majority of the base that the PA has grown has been an organic base. People keep asking, have they taken away votes from Good? Have they taken away votes from the DA? I don't think that that's the clean answer or the clear answer to where those votes are coming from. We do know that there's a bias towards the colored community because there's a lot of identity politics in the way that the PA has constructed its politics. But we also know there's a rural bias, and that's one of the stories of the Northern Cape. The rural Northern Cape was one of the first to land big votes for the Patriotic Alliance. The same is true for the Western Cape. The rural Western Cape has been a landing space for the Patriotic Alliance. Yes, they started off in Gauteng, and they do have some Gauteng votes, and will probably get some more as the day progresses. We are not at the stage where the metros have been counted yet, and that's why we know it's the rural votes for both the Western Cape and Gauteng. Well, Gauteng doesn't really have a real rural, but the Western Cape for sure, Northern Cape for sure, it's rural votes that have gotten Patriotic Alliance that growth. And how did they do it? By elections. The PA went and organized one by-election at a time, and now has organizers at minimum, and in some cases ward councillors that were organizing for them in this election. If there is a Cinderella story of this election, it is definitely the Patriotic Alliance. What was once two pop culture figures are now two serious politicians who are going to have more seats in parliament than most parties who've been around for a long, long time, including the ACDP, even Action SA, they may have more than. So I think it's a really fascinating story. I think there's going to be a lot to be said about what the PA does with those votes. But I also think there's a lot to be said about the question between the PA's rhetoric versus its organizing. I personally don't believe that it's the PA's rhetoric that has drawn the masses. I think that the rural vote particularly tells us it's more the PA's organizing than its rhetoric that is winning it the day and making it the second biggest story I would predict in this election. Yeah.